Thank you for joining me here today, August 26, 2021. I'm going to talk about different possibilities about attacks that some modern pterosaurs make against a human on occasion. These are rare compared to the many accounts and reports of encounters with pterodactyls, flying dinosaurs, whatever people call them, in modern times, where most encounters are just harmless, apparently, to people. And the flying creatures seem to just not take notice or just not be interested in attacking any person. So let's get right into this. This is a live stream chat that we're doing here on Thursday, the 26th of August, 2021. Here's a video that you get more information about this on a different channel called Protect Animal Life channel on YouTube. And in this case, a man named Frank Cecilia was attacked, as well as two of his cousins, when they were out late at night, about between the hours of 2 and 3 in the morning. And this was in 1984, either at or near the Delaware River in Pennsylvania, as these three men were catfishing. It was dramatic. One of his cousins just ran away right off. He just ran off. The other two stayed and tried to defend themselves with this gigantic flying creature. He said it was prehistoric. He said it was pterodactyl. That's what he called it. They could see it at that hour because they were burning a tire, so they could see, well, they needed to get their fishing lines moved as the tide changed, and they needed to move their fishing lines, so they had to have some light. So their custom was for many years when they got together and went fishing here in the Delaware River area, they would burn a tire, and that allowed them to get a view of this creature as it came down close to them. And they said it got pretty close. It opened its talons, he said, and tried to grab them. Frank estimated their wingspan was 20 to 22 feet, and he works in carpentry. He knows sizes of boards, and this was close. I mean, they were whacking not just its feet, they were using their fishing rods, not just to whack the flying creature's feet, but the lower part of its body. So it got close enough to them that he could estimate the wingspan. And they were yelling, screaming, and the animal was making these noises. And you'll see more information here on this particular video. And now, as we're getting on with this, we're going to talk a little bit more about pterodactyl attacks against people, which are rare compared to the many sightings people have in general, in which no attack took place against any person. But on occasion, an individual animal can be dangerous, including at night, and not limited to at night, but happens at night sometimes. So we're going to be checking in here, see if anybody wants to participate, ask any questions. We'll get right into this. This is the URL of this particular video. It's not on this channel. It's on my major channel, Protect Animal Life, abbreviated PAL, P-A-L. It's probably the #1 channel on YouTube in terms of the number of videos I think it's 180-something videos it has now, after 2.5 years being on YouTube. Almost every single video relates to modern pterodactyls, or pterosaurs is the proper word. But generally, these flying creatures do not attack people, but there are exceptions, and the public needs to be aware of these exceptions. They do happen occasionally. We'll get into another one now. It's not just Frank Cecilia, who was attacked with his cousins, but also there's another video called Pterodactyl Tries Attacking. Incidentally, the title, Pterodactyl Attacks 3 Men, is misspelled on purpose because some people misspell it when they're searching. So this is the spelling of it, 3 men, and I forgot the close quote on that before the talks about the PAL channel, but this is the URL for that video. Another video on the PAL channel is titled Pterodactyl Tries Attacking. And let's get into what was going on with this. You can get a URL here to get more details on this, and there's more involved in this. But one of the first things that comes up with that video is an account of a grandmother who was looking outside, saw her grandson, her little grandson was out in the backyard or side yard, or not sure right now what it was, but outside the house. And this huge, well, I think the phrase was flying dinosaur, this huge creature came down, tried to grab her grandson to carry it away. She ran out there, grabbed her grandson, hurried him into the house before the creature could get him. And it was terrifying. She didn't tell people until she heard her niece talking about that. I suppose that would be the aunt of the little boy that was almost grabbed by the animal. But the niece of the grandmother, the niece, talked about her sighting, or mentioned something related to her sighting on a different occasion. And then the grandmother told her what happened 3 years earlier. This was in about early 2017 in Huntsville, Texas. Sorry I didn't mention the location. Huntsville, Texas, which is, I forgot exactly where it is in Texas, in this central eastern part of Texas. So this is URL for that. So now what is it that causes these attacks? Now, they are rare. There are some exceptions. We have, if you want to contact me with any of it through email, use this form. But let me tell you about one other occasion. This is, it's been decades now, many years now. But this is in western Oklahoma, where a little girl was, she contacted me recently, very recently. Now she's grown, of course, but she was a small child preschooler. She was walking with her siblings to the bus stop where she was too young to go to school, but her siblings got on the bus and left, and she was walking back to the house, just about passing the chicken coop, and she was confronted, attacked by this large, hairy, flying creature with hair on it, and it was diving and trying to grab her. She looked at it all the time. She was looking at it and fell down to the ground to get out of its way, and was able to run to the house, and it missed her, fortunately, probably because she ducked down to the ground. And she said it had teeth in the beak. Teeth. Yeah, that kind of teeth. It's not a bird. And she knew that, even though she was just a little preschooler, she knew that that was not right. The birds are not supposed to have teeth, and this thing did not have feathers. It was hairy, had hair. And she fortunately got into the house, and was, now, decades later, she learns that other people have sightings. So she told me about this. She told me that she suspects that there are some missing children cases in that part of the country, in western Oklahoma, that she believes are related to this attack against her when she was a child, and she's afraid that some children go missing because of that kind of thing. That I have to make this known to people. I have to make videos and mention this in my publications, which are blog posts. I haven't written a book in a while. It's been a while. But in recent years, I've learned it's just more common than I thought it was, unfortunately. So if anyone wants to participate in the chat, feel free. Come right in. This is not prepared in advance. It's an impromptu live stream chat. I'm Jonathan Whitcomb, August 26, 2021. The title of this is Pterodactyls Attacking People. Fortunately, it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. So let's get into this a little more, a little deeper. I'll tell you one thing, we are getting a nonprofit organization together called Animal Discovery. It's got some paperwork to be done. We can't, as today, August 26, 2021, we can't accept any donation today, but we will soon, in the very near future. And we will, one of the things that we'll be doing is letting the public know about these sightings around the world. I've interviewed eyewitnesses, or received emails, at least, if you can't call it a normal interview, if you're just communicating by emails, perhaps. But I've received reports directly from the eyewitnesses, the persons who have encountered these modern pterosaurs, and I've received them in the hundreds over the past 18 years from 5 continents. 5 continents. And we know that these are not misidentifications. And why is that? Well, by the way, it's just hundreds just from the United States, hundreds of, there's hardly any state in the United States I haven't received an eyewitness report from directly from the person who encountered the flying creature, except a very few states in North Dakota, South Dakota. I haven't received one directly yet, but almost every other state. Wyoming and Montana don't have that much going on. It's possible one or both of those might be exceptions, but generally almost every state in the United States, including Hawaii and a lot in California. But getting back to this, how do we know that these are not misidentifications? Well, the people that report them, for one thing, there's several evidences we have. First, one thing, the people that report these to me and my associates, because I'm not alone in this, not at all. I have associates who are also cryptozoologists, a biologist, scientists, others who research or receive eyewitness reports directly themselves. And here's the thing. These reports come from around the world, from different cultures, different people of different languages, and these persons have different backgrounds educationally, and different religions, different cultural influences, different traditions and experiences in different parts of the world from different cultures. Yet when they describe the animal itself, generally that usually fits a pattern that is similar to what other people have seen in other places in the world who have different cultures and nationalities and languages and so on. But the descriptions are strikingly similar. Generally, it's a nocturnal animal that appears to be, in general, not common, but not necessarily rare in the sense that there are not many in the world, but any particular location at any particular time. Like, for example, in a particular area in Lakewood, California, in Los Angeles County, a few years ago, in which the eyewitness saw one in daytime and got very close to it, a long tail with a structure at the end of the tail, which is a ropin. That's a ropin, and it flew off, but that doesn't mean that there's a colony of them right there near her backyard. I was hoping for that, and I set up a game camera. Didn't work out. I got the cheap kind of game camera. It didn't work, but I tried, and apparently that was not the place that it would come back to normally. It just happened to be there for some reason at that particular time over the storm channel in her backyard. But there's not any particular location that I'm aware of after my 18 years of study in which a group of these animals will be concentrated at any particular place, at any particular time, at any particular day. They just kind of fly all over in many parts of the world, and including North America, Canada, United States, of course, and Cuba, other parts of the Caribbean, Mexico, Central America, and so on. So, and it's found in Europe. I mean, I've received accounts in many parts of Europe, England, Netherlands, Spain. Got a report recently from Italy. They're not rare in a worldwide sense, and they don't generally attack people, fortunately. But there's these rare exceptions, and we need to be aware of that. So if any way you want to bring up anything, any questions or anything, I'm here for a little while, and anxious to answer any questions you might have. Why do they attack? What's the purpose of it? Why would a nocturnal, they are nocturnal in general. If there are any exceptions, they're kind of rare exceptions of the species, and not necessarily many species, but there's more than one species that are still living. And my associates and I believe that they're descended from some type or types of pterosaurs, what people call sometimes flying dinosaurs. You know, you have different ways of saying dragon, pterodactyl. Some people say thunderbird, but I don't think that's a good way to designate it. But people say what they want, they label it the way they want to. So why would they attack a person? Well, we have one case, I suspect, and it reminds me of this case in that I'd been through a little while ago about this. A pterodactyl attacks 3 men or fishing on or near the bank of the Delaware River in 1984, about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. This attack reminds me of another attack that happened many years earlier, decades earlier, in Papua New Guinea, north of where I led an expedition years ago, in the area of Manus Island, which is the northernmost part of Papua New Guinea, which is north of Australia. In that area of the Southwest Pacific is a little south of the Philippines. Anyway, the attack happened while this fisherman was out in his boat. I suspect in that case, and the man eventually died. You know, he fought it. He had a spear, and he was fighting with it for a long time. They were fighting with each other. Why, if the animal is a large, what I would call ropen, but the people in that part of Papua New Guinea and their particular native language call it kor, K-O-R. But they were fighting for a long time. It doesn't make sense if the animal is just trying to attack the man to eat him. It doesn't make sense that it would fight for so long when it was receiving some injuries or potential injuries. Doesn't make sense. It should have given up. It's probably a territorial dispute. And there are other evidences we have. This is indirect. I haven't talked with this native, or of course he's dead, but I mean, I haven't talked to the person who got the account from one of his relatives. Oh, I talked to that man, but in other words, it's not a first-hand account. It's I talked to the native, communicated with him by emails not many years ago, and he had talked directly with the grandson of the man who died. So it's not a first-hand account. It's not a second-hand account. It's a kind of apparently a third-hand account, but it resembles this kind of attack that happened in the United States in 1984 with this 20 to 22-foot wingspan pterodactyl, as it was called, but between 2 and 3 in the morning there at the Delaware River area. Frank Cecilia was attacked with 2 of his cousins. There's something that's similar about that. I believe it's a territory, but the animal in Papua New Guinea, the kor, as they call it, K-O-R, probably defending its fishing territory and realized that this human was catching fish and just determined to get him out of there and get rid of him. And didn't want any competition. Perhaps he's very hungry and just needed the fish for himself. I believe that's probably the reason for that attack. Now, I'm not sure about this case. It could be the same. 3 men, one of them ran away right away, and the other 2 stayed and used their fishing rods to whack at the feet and lower body of the pterosaur as it came down hovering and then came down lower. You can see it in this more details on the other channel that I have about modern pterosaurs. This is the URL. Excuse me. It could be the same motivation for the animal to defend its fishing territory, possibly. Though Frank himself felt that it was trying to carry them away. It had its talons open when it came down, as if it wanted to grab them. Wingspan 20 to 22 feet. It's not impossible. Not necessarily at a hovering. That would be not easy to do, but there is danger from some of these flying creatures that most people are not aware of. It's not just physically that they have talons and beaks with teeth in them often, not always, but sometimes with teeth. These modern parent pterodactyls, at least in one or more species, have a way of dealing with prey and defending themselves that very few people are aware of, except me and my associates who've studied this for so many years. It's a mist or vapor that they can emit from somewhere in the mouth or somewhere close to the mouth, that they can emit, where if the person or animal that's being attacked inhales that, it's very harmful, and they're just disabled. And then the pterodactyls, or what you want to call it, that pterosaur can handle them, or the animal or the person that's attacked. So that is a danger. It's not just the talons, not just the beak. It's that possibility of inhaling that mist or vapor that's emitted by this flying creature. Now, we're not saying that all of these and all of their species that are alive today have that capability, that mechanism for doing that, but we have a significant amount of either indirect or third-hand or accounts or whatever that indicate it's real. It's a real danger. It's a real method of sometimes self-defense, sometimes for subduing prey, as best as we can tell, subduing prey. And it makes sense because pterosaurs, whether modern or ancient or whatever, whenever they lived, they don't have very strong body structure. I mean, they can be injured, so they need to have some way to deal with the danger of that they could be in from attacking an animal or person that could fight back. And these three men did fight back with their fishing rods whacking its feet and its lower body. Feel free to participate. Thank you for coming here. 34th Crenshaw. Are they real? Oh, yes, definitely real. We can talk about this 34th if you like. How do we know they're real? I've never had a good sighting myself. I've had 3 very poor sightings, so I don't usually mention that. I don't use that as evidence because 2 of them were probably birds anyway. And the other one I just don't know. It was at night. But I never had anything like a good sighting like many eyewitnesses have. And over the last 18 years, I've been able to estimate, generally, there's so many hundreds of eyewitnesses who contacted me directly. These are the people who've actually encountered these flying creatures. And I've been able to interview them or at least to communicate by email enough to see that the great majority of them don't have any sign of mental illness. There is one exception over the years that where I couldn't use it in my publications or don't discuss it because the person apparently had a mental health problem. It was just not taking the medicine that the person was supposed to be taking. And so the person thought that it was these strange creatures encountered was not real, just hallucination or delusion or something. But anyway, just generally, the vast majority have no symptom, anything like that. And sometimes it's multiple eyewitnesses at the same time, so you kind of rule out insanity. Insanity is not something that's instantaneously, contagious. The COVID, you're going to have a hallucination, and the person standing next to you is going to have the same hallucination, sees the same thing that you do. No, it's not from mental health problems when you have multiple eyewitnesses. And also, they're not misidentifications because I don't have the numbers in front like I can show you, but the many estimates or wingspan, it varies a tremendous amount. Different species, of course, and different ages of them. They grow from small sizes to larger over years, apparently, as far as we can tell. And then you have different species, too. But generally, all these varied estimates of wingspan do not line up well at all with any kind of misidentification of a blue heron or a sandhill crane or a whooping crane or anything like that, because this is just not related at all to the estimates for the wingspan. Of course, the human estimates can be mistaken, but not just in any wild kind of way. Be careful of assuming that just because humans are not perfect at estimating a wingspan of a flying creature that's flying up in the air doesn't necessarily mean that there's no meaning to the data. No, be careful about that assumption, because it's not good to speculate in that way. There are things you can learn about them, and the great variety indicates that it's not misidentified. And there's other ways too. For example, when I went into this person it was a child in western Oklahoma, quite a few years ago, and encountered this apparent pterodactyl. It had hair and it had teeth in the beak, and this is not very rare in my reports that I receive. Some eyewitnesses are close enough in the right conditions, like Patty Carson at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba in 1965. And just a few years ago in western Minnesota, a sighting by Jonathan Archer. I interviewed him in my home, and he was here in this part of the country just about a year ago, not too long ago. And he mentions the teeth. He's had actually two pterodactyls, or pterosaurs, whatever you want to call them. He's had two of them. Apparently, when they're flying together, though they didn't see them at the same time. It's a long story. You got to see the video on my pal channel, Protect Animal Life. But what happened was he did see the teeth in the beak of the second one, which is a little smaller than the first one. He did see teeth in the beak, and there was another eyewitness that contacted me, the multiple persons. That was one eyewitness of a number who saw a similar creature in northern Minnesota that had teeth in the beak. And we have other parts of the country where people do see teeth in the beak in the United States, and this don't think they're different than the ropens or whatever you want to call them that are in other parts of the world. They're real animals, yeah. They're not interdimensional. They act like normal animals. They're trying to find food. They fight with people sometimes, rarely, fortunately. And they do have behaviors, self-defense, timidity about people being too close occasionally. And many times they're not seem to be paying attention to people, generally. And the exceptions are when they're attacking either to defend a territory or their fishing territory, or to actually try to catch someone to eat them. And that does happen. We have an account in, for example, in Papua New Guinea. I mentioned one with this man in northern Papua New Guinea, but also central Papua New Guinea and the mainland of that country, where there is an old man that was in his garden. And he's sick, couldn't defend himself well. The ropeman came down, carried him away up into a tree, and probably was yelling, making noise. By the time the other villagers came to see what was making the noise, what was going on, the ropeman had already carried the man, poor old man, up into the tree and was starting to eat the man. I don't like to go into detail on this. I want to make this a family friendly. I won't go into more details about that, but it does happen occasionally. That's the exception. That's the exception. So that's generally what we have here. The case where people are attacked are not common. They just occasionally come up. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you want to make any comments on this, this will be put up on the YouTube channel with my name, Jonathan Whitcomb. And this is the smaller channel I have about modern pterodactyls. A much larger channel that I have that has much more about these flying creatures is called Protect Animal Life. And let's see, I don't have anything to show you on that right now. Animal Discovery is what I have here to promote the new nonprofit organization that will be coming up. But please come back to this channel and feel free to make comments on the videos. There's still a good number of videos on this channel, and I'll be putting up more videos now. I've been away from this channel for a while. With my other more recent channel, it has a lot more videos, but I'm coming back now, as you see. So please come back and tell people about this, share this with others, and this channel and the other one, Protect Animal Life, about these modern pterodactyls and the videos that we have about them. And have a good evening. Thank you.